Climate change can be a difficult topic to talk about, whether you're discussing with family around the dinner table or presenting to the public. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting two climate change educators and the strategies they use to impart climate literacy, inspire hope, and move their audiences to take action. Specifically, I'm going to touch on how they use positive messaging that highlights collective action and is about local issues. How would you approach climate change if you lived in a state whose leading politician says that each side has their scientist and they can all go and argue, and where the coal industry is a valued and a living part of the local economy and culture? These challenges don't stymie Jennifer Hubbard Sanchez because for her, climate change represents the unifying issue and opportunity of our time. Jennifer's approach to climate change education incorporates two practices in particular that climate change communication literature suggests will be effective for gaining support for climate change action or policy. One is harnessing collective action, and the other is discussing climate change as a local phenomenon rather than a global or distant one. Jennifer works with students in the Kentucky State University chapter of Minorities in Agricultural Natural Resources and Related Sciences, or MANRS, KSU's Green Society, and other student groups teaching them what she calls Climate Change 101, and then training them to be climate change community leaders. The goal of her work is to empower students to understand what climate change is, how humans are contributing to it, and what the students can do locally about climate change. Jennifer's students work together as teams to develop outreach activities, and in the process of working as teams, they practice network building, they practice public speaking, and they develop leadership and teamwork skills. They worked together to develop an outreach program on the Kentucky State University bus that takes students who don't have cars back and forth from Walmart each week. On the bus, the students gave mini Climate 101 talks that they developed, and they handed out reusable bags they had designed with tips for climate change action they had put together. The reusable bags were intended to reduce students' use of plastic bags and thus potentially reducing their carbon footprint. As you can see, the activity gave them a way to work as a team and to develop an action item that was tangible. Climate change communication research suggests that framing climate change as a local phenomenon rather than a global one will be more effective at garnering support for climate change policy. Jennifer approaches the issue from a local perspective because, as she says, I think it's really hard for people to look at a picture of a polar bear and walk away and really feel like they're going to make any sort of change or want to make any sort of change. As a model for this practice, Jennifer wrote a Kentucky supplement in 2015 for Project Learning Tree's Southeastern Forests and Climate Change module. The Kentucky supplement that she wrote provides additional information on how climate change impacts forests within the state of Kentucky and links this information to the relevant activities in the module. It takes the already specific activities for the Southeast and makes them even more specific to Kentucky as a state. Like Jennifer, Adam Ratner talks about climate change in his local context, which is the Marine Mammal Center in California. The Marine Mammal Center is the largest marine mammal hospital in the world, and it's an education facility that's open to the public and welcomes 100,000 visitors a year. Adam created a volunteer training program there based on the principles of the National Network for Ocean and Climate Change Interpretation to deliver climate change messages to the public. Adam and his volunteers highlight community-level solutions and use positive messaging to try and inspire hope in their audiences. They accomplish this by using the resources and actions taken by the Marine Mammal Center itself. So in these pictures, you can see solar panels above the animal enclosures. So when the volunteers are talking with visitors about the animals in these enclosures, they can also then link into climate change mitigation actions that the center has taken by installing the solar panels and talking to the visitors about how they can work within their own communities to begin using solar instead of carbon-based energy options. They can also then link this to another action the center has taken, which is providing plug-in stations for electric cars. And they can also link all of this to the benefits that climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies will have for the animal in the center, who rely on nice wide beaches for breeding, and this is habitat that is threatened by sea level rise due to climate change. These are two examples from the United States, but former students who have taken this course are also putting climate change communication into action around the world. For example, in the city of Mbalmayo, Cameroon, Course participants are working to mitigate climate change by replacing wood charcoal with green charcoal. Green charcoal is made from household compost and scraps, and it reduces the need for deforestation, recycles food waste, and reduces both carbon dioxide and methane emissions. To build for support for using green charcoal in household, the group holds meetings in public gathering places like churches. And by meeting in churches, they are meeting in a location where community members are comfortable and on familiar ground. But the church also then becomes a sort of trusted messenger by approving the meeting. In summary, Jennifer and Adam use positive messaging, and they also highlight or draw on the power of collective action, rather than appealing solely to what we can do as individuals at home. Course participants in Cameroon are harnessing the power of trusted community institutions to connect their work with their community members.